I was standing in the frozen food aisle of Whole Foods when I realized my marriage was a lie. Not because of some dramatic confrontation or tearful confession. No, nothing that clean. I found out because my wife Jessica's Apple Watch, the one she'd left charging on my desk that morning, kept buzzing with notifications from an app I'd never seen before. Discreet encounters. Each buzz was another message from someone named Traveling Brad 47. The preview on the screen read, "Can't wait to see you at the Marriott again. Room 847 this time." My hand went numb. The bag of frozen peas I'd been holding dropped to the floor with a dull thud that echoed through the store. A woman nearby glanced at me with concern, but I couldn't move. Couldn't think. The watch kept buzzing. 3 more messages in quick succession. "You okay, buddy?" A stock clerk appeared beside me, picking up the peas. "Yeah," I heard myself say. "Just remembered something." I walked out of that store without buying anything, got into my Tesla, and sat there in the parking lot for 20 minutes staring at that watch. Jessica and I had been married for 11 years. We had 2 kids, Emma, 9, and Tyler, 6. We lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester County that we'd renovated together. We had date nights every Thursday. We just booked a vacation to Turks and Caicos for our anniversary next month. And apparently, she'd been meeting someone named Brad at the Marriott. The rational part of my brain, the part that had built a successful software consulting business from nothing, kicked into gear. I didn't text her, didn't call. Instead, I drove to Best Buy and purchased a basic Android phone with cash. Then I went to a coffee shop 3 towns over and created a new email account that Jessica knew nothing about. I needed to know everything before I made a single move. Back home, I acted normal. When Jessica came through the door at 6:30, I was helping Tyler with his math homework while Emma practiced violin in the living room. The domestic symphony of our life together. "Hey, honey," she said, kissing my cheek. She smelled like her usual perfume, Chanel No. 5. "How was your day?" "Good. Productive?" I handed her the Apple Watch. "You left this on my desk." She took it without hesitation, no flash of panic in her eyes. "Thanks. I'd be lost without this thing." I bet you would, I thought. That night, after she fell asleep, I took her laptop from her home office. Jessica was a real estate agent, a successful one, and she kept everything on that computer. She'd never been particularly tech-savvy, which meant her passwords were variations of the same theme. Our kids' names plus birth years. It took me 4 tries to get into her personal email. What I found made the frozen food aisle discovery look like a preview for the main feature. The affair with Brad had been going on for 8 months. He was a pharmaceutical sales rep she'd met at an open house. Married, 2 kids of his own, living in Connecticut. The emails were detailed, planning their encounters around his business trips and her client meetings. But Brad wasn't alone. There was also someone named Kevin, a contractor she'd hired for a client's renovation. That had been going on for 5 months. And before both of them, there'd been someone named Derek, though that seemed to have ended around the time Brad entered the picture. 3 men. Possibly more. I sat in the dark of her office, the laptop screen illuminating my face, reading through message after message. Some were logistical, times, places, excuses she'd given me. Others were explicit enough to make my stomach turn. She'd been living an entire separate life, and I'd been completely blind to it. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was reading how she talked about me. "He's so predictable," she'd written to Brad. "Works until 7, comes home, helps with homework, asks about my day, like clockwork. He doesn't suspect anything." To Kevin, "My husband's too busy building his little empire to notice what I'm doing. Makes it almost too easy." Little empire. I'd built a company that generated $7 million in revenue last year. We lived in a $1 million home. Her Mercedes SUV in the driveway cost $80,000. And she called it my little empire while sleeping with half of Westchester County. I copied everything. Every email, every message, every photo she'd been careless enough to store in her cloud. I created a detailed spreadsheet with dates, times, locations, and corresponding credit card charges. The Marriott visits showed up on our joint Amex. She'd categorized them as client dinners. The lingerie purchases from agent provocateur that I'd never seen her wear. The hotel room service charges. She'd been funding her affairs with our money and expensing it like a business trip. By 3 in the morning, I had a file that would make any divorce attorney salivate. But I wasn't ready to play that card yet. New York was technically a no-fault divorce state, but it wasn't a community property state. Jessica's infidelity might not matter for the divorce itself, but it would matter for everything else: custody, spousal support, the division of assets. I needed more than emails. I needed irrefutable proof. The next morning, I called my business attorney, Patrick Brennan. We'd worked together for 6 years, and I trusted him completely. I need a referral, I told him. Family law, the best you know? There was a pause. Everything okay? It will be. He gave me a name, Victoria Walsh. She's a barracuda, he said. Expensive, but worth every penny if you're serious. I'm serious. I had my first appointment with Victoria scheduled for the following Tuesday. In the meantime, I had a marriage to pretend to live in, and a wife who had no idea that her carefully constructed double life was about to implode. The meeting with Victoria Walsh was scheduled for Tuesday at 2 in the afternoon. I had 4 days to keep pretending everything was fine. Thursday night was our standing date night. Jessica came downstairs in a black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. She'd paired it with heels and that perfume, Chanel number 5. The same scent she wore when she met Brad at the Marriott. You look beautiful, I said, because that's what I always said. She smiled and kissed my cheek. Thanks, honey. Where are we going? I made reservations at Marcello's. Her eyes lit up. Our favorite Italian place, the one where I'd proposed. She had no idea I'd chosen it specifically because I wanted to remember this night, the last date night before everything changed. I wanted to see if she could sit across from me, eat pasta, drink wine, and lie to my face. She could. We talked about Emma's upcoming recital, Tyler's struggles with reading, the new listing she'd picked up in Scarsdale, a $3 million tutor that she was really excited about. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I love you, she said. I love you too. The words tasted like ashes. Friday morning, I drove to a FedEx office in White Plains. I'd created a new email account, not the burner one I'd used for the attorney, but another one, completely separate. This one had a specific purpose. I logged into Jessica's iCloud from one of their public computers, using the credentials I'd extracted from her laptop. Then I set up email forwarding. Every message that came into her account would now be automatically copied to mine. She'd never know. The emails would still appear in her inbox, unread or read, exactly as they normally would. I cleared the browser history, paid cash for the computer time, and left. Now I'd have real-time access. If Brad messaged her, I'd know. If she planned another meetup, I'd see it as it happened. Saturday was Tyler's soccer game. Jessica stood on the sideline next to me, cheering when his team scored. Her phone buzzed twice. She glanced at it, smiled slightly, then slipped it back into her purse. 20 seconds later, my burner phone, tucked in my jacket pocket, vibrated. I waited until halftime, then walked to the parking lot like I was getting something from the car. I pulled out the phone. 2 messages forwarded from Jessica's email. Both from Brad. Can't stop thinking about Tuesday. You're incredible. When can I see you again? Next week? Tuesday. That would have been 3 days ago, The same day, I'd been sitting in my office working on a proposal for a new client, while my wife was in a hotel room with another man. I checked her response, sent 15 minutes ago while we stood side by side watching our son play soccer. Miss you too. Thursday? Same place, same time? Thursday. Our date night. She was planning to cancel on me. Or maybe she'd suggest we move it to Friday, claim she had a work obligation. A late showing, perhaps. An open house that ran long. I put the phone away and walked back to the field. Jessica was talking to another soccer mom, laughing about something. When she saw me, she waved. I waved back. Sunday, I took the kids to the park while Jessica showed houses. At least that's what she said she was doing. For all I knew, she was with Kevin the contractor, or someone else I hadn't discovered yet. Emma wanted to try the monkey bars. Tyler needed help on the swings. I pushed him higher and higher, watching him laugh, and felt something crack inside my chest. This was what she was risking. This? Our family. Our kids. For Brad. For Kevin. For the thrill of strange hands and hotel rooms and the ego boost of being desired by men who didn't know her the way I did. Didn't know that she sang off-key in the shower, or that she cried during insurance commercials, or that she still slept with the lamp on when I traveled for work. Or maybe they did know. Maybe she'd told them everything. Maybe I was the punchline to jokes she shared while lying in their arms. "Higher, Daddy!" Tyler shouted. I pushed harder. Monday night, Jessica announced she had to move our date night to Friday. "I'm so sorry," she said, her face the perfect picture of disappointment. This client, the Scarsdale tutor, they can only do a second showing Thursday evening. It's a big commission, honey. I can't pass it up. Of course, I said. Friday works. She kissed me. You're the best. I'll make it up to you. I wondered if she'd use the same line with Brad after she canceled on him. Probably not. She wouldn't need to. He'd understand. They were both married, both sneaking around. Flexibility was part of the arrangement. I watched her walk upstairs, her phone already in her hand. 30 seconds later, my burner buzzed. Message to Brad. Thursday's perfect. Can't wait. Tuesday morning, I put on my best suit, the charcoal Tom Ford I usually saved for major client pitches. I told Jessica I had meetings all afternoon, which was true. Just not the kind she thought. Victoria Walsh's office was in a high-rise in Stamford, Connecticut. 43rd floor, corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Sound. The reception area had leather furniture and abstract art that probably cost more than my Tesla. The receptionist, a polished woman in her 30s, smiled when I walked in. Mr. Bennett? I'd given them a fake last name when I called. Just in case? That's me. Ms. Walsh will see you shortly. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? I'm fine, thank you. I sat down and waited. 3 minutes later, a door opened and a woman appeared. Mid-40s, blonde hair pulled back in a bun, navy suit that screamed expensive. She had the kind of face that probably looked sympathetic when she needed it to, but right now it was all business. Mr. Bennett? I'm Victoria Walsh. Please come in. Her office was even more impressive than the reception area. Mahogany desk, more abstract art, shelves lined with legal volumes and framed photographs of her shaking hands with people I vaguely recognized. A governor, maybe a senator. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. Please sit. Patrick spoke very highly of you. He said you needed family law representation. That's correct. She folded her hands on the desk. Before we begin, I want to be clear about my fees. My retainer is $50,000. My hourly rate is $800. If this goes to trial, cost can exceed $200,000 depending on complexity. Are you prepared for that investment? I am. Good. Now, tell me what's going on. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a folder. Not the complete file I'd compiled. That was locked in a safe deposit box I'd rented under my burner identity, but a substantial portion. Printed emails, screenshots of messages, credit card statements with hotel charges highlighted, photos I'd found in Jessica's cloud storage, carefully cropped to show nothing explicit but enough to make the context clear. I slid the folder across the desk. Victoria opened it. Her expression didn't change as she read, but I saw her eyes moving faster as she got deeper into the material. After 5 minutes, she looked up. How long has this been going on? The current affair, Brad, 8 months. Before him, Kevin, 5 months. There was overlap. Before Kevin, someone named Derek. I don't have a timeline on him yet. There may be others. And you discovered this how? I explained. The Apple Watch, the laptop, the passwords, the cloud storage, the email forwarding I'd set up. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. You've been thorough. I'm a software consultant. Data collection is what I do. How much of this evidence was obtained legally? All of it. We're married, community property. The laptop is jointly owned. I paid for it. The credit cards are joint accounts. The iCloud account is linked to a phone on our family plan, which I pay for. I haven't hacked anything that isn't partially mine. She nodded slowly. New York is a no-fault divorce state, which means adultery isn't technically grounds for divorce anymore. However, it absolutely matters for equitable distribution and custody. I want full custody, I said, and I want her to walk away with as little as possible. Victoria's expression didn't change. Tell me about your assets. Victoria leaned back in her leather chair, fingers steepled beneath her chin. Before we discuss strategy, I need to understand the full financial picture. Walk me through everything: assets, debts, income sources. I'd anticipated this. From my messenger bag, I pulled out a second folder, this one color-coded with tabs. Our primary residence is worth approximately $1.2 million. Mortgage balance of $340,000. We have joint savings of $180,000. My business accounts hold another $420,000. Retirement accounts total roughly $890,000. Mine are significantly larger since I've been maxing out contributions for years, while Jessica's income has been more variable. Victoria made notes on her legal pad. Other assets? 2 vehicles, both leased. My Tesla, her Mercedes SUV. Minimal personal property of significant value except Jessica's jewelry collection, maybe $40,000 worth. Most of that I purchased for anniversaries and birthdays. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been funding the lifestyle of a woman who'd been systematically betraying me. Your business is the major asset. Victoria tapped her pen against the pad. Software consulting, you said. How is it structured? LLC, established 3 years before we married. But it's grown substantially during the marriage, from about $800,000 in revenue that first year to $7 million currently. That complicates things. New York is an equitable distribution state, not community property. The court will consider what portion of the business's growth is attributable to marital assets versus your individual effort. She paused. However, given what you've documented here, we have significant leverage. I felt something tighten in my chest. Explain. New York doesn't technically recognize fault in divorce anymore. We're a no-fault state. But, she held up one finger. Fault can absolutely influence equitable distribution and maintenance decisions. A judge has discretion. When one spouse has dissipated marital assets, and make no mistake, spending joint funds on hotel rooms for extramarital affairs is dissipation, the court can adjust the distribution accordingly. How significantly? I've seen adjustments of 10 to 20% in cases with this level of documentation. More importantly for you, this evidence demolishes any argument she might make for maintenance. She's employed, earning decent income, and she's been spending marital funds on affairs. No judge is going to look favorably on that. I pulled out my phone, opened the spreadsheet I'd been maintaining. I've calculated approximately $23,000 in hotel charges over the past 8 months. That's just what I can definitively tie to the affairs. There are another $15,000 in charges that seem suspicious. Restaurants in towns she had no business reason to visit, spa treatments on days she claimed to be showing properties. Victoria's eyebrow lifted slightly. You've been thorough. I built a business from nothing by paying attention to details other people miss. I scrolled through the data. Every charge is categorized, cross-referenced with her calendar entries and the email evidence. I can show a pattern. Good. We'll want to depose her about each of these charges. Put her in a position where she either admits to the affairs under oath or commits perjury. Victoria made more notes. Now, custody. That's where this gets more complex. My jaw tightened. I want full custody. I understand, but New York courts strongly favor shared parenting arrangements unless there's evidence of unfitness. She held up her hand before I could interrupt. Infidelity alone doesn't constitute unfitness as a parent. The court's focus is the best interest of the children. She's been lying to them constantly. Every time she cancels plans, claims she has to work, sneaks off to meet one of her. I caught myself, forced my voice level. That demonstrates poor judgment and dishonesty. It demonstrates poor judgment as a spouse. That's different from poor judgment as a parent. Victoria's expression softened slightly. I'm not saying we can't argue for primary custody, but you need to be realistic about the likely outcome. What we can probably achieve is primary physical custody with you, with her having regular visitation. That's actually better for you financially. She'd potentially owe child support rather than the reverse. I hadn't considered that angle. Child support. Based on New York's formula and the income disparity, your business income is substantially higher than her real estate commissions. You'd normally be looking at paying her. But if you have primary physical custody and she has visitation, the calculation reverses. She'd owe you, though the amount wouldn't be massive given that you out-earn her. I don't care about the money from her. I care about my kids not being raised part-time by someone who's been modeling deception and infidelity. Victoria studied me for a long moment. Then we need to build a case around stability and primary caretaking. Who takes the kids to school? Who handles doctor's appointments, parent-teacher conferences, extracurriculars? I thought through our typical week. It's fairly split. I do morning drop-offs because my schedule is more flexible. She does pickups. We both attend the kids' activities, though I've probably been to more of Emma's violin recitals because they're often on evenings when Jessica claims to be showing properties. Claims to be. Right. I pulled up another file on my phone. I've started documenting that too. Cross-referencing her claimed work schedule against her actual real estate transactions. There are significant gaps. How long have you been tracking this? Since I discovered the affairs. 11 days. Victoria's expression shifted to something that might have been respect. You've compiled this entire case file in 11 days. I'm motivated. Clearly. She flipped through the evidence folder again. Here's what I recommend. We don't file immediately. You continue documenting both the affairs and the childcare patterns. We want at least 30 days of solid data showing you're the primary caretaker. Meanwhile, I'll have my investigator do some additional work. What kind of work? Background on the affair partners. Brad especially, since that's the longest-running relationship. If there's anything in his history that could be concerning, substance issues, legal problems, anything that might suggest your children could be exposed to inappropriate situations, that strengthens our custody argument. I hadn't thought about that. The idea of my kids being around Brad, this man who'd been sleeping with their mother, made my skin crawl. She wouldn't introduce them to him, Would she? You'd be surprised what people do. And even if she hasn't yet, if this relationship continues post-separation, it becomes relevant. Victoria made another note. We should also consider whether to approach this as a contested divorce or try to negotiate a settlement. She doesn't know I know anything yet. That's your strategic advantage. The question is how to leverage it. Victoria leaned forward. Option 1. We file, serve her with papers and all this evidence simultaneously. Maximum shock and awe. She's immediately on the defensive, scrambling to respond. Option 2. We approach her attorney, assuming she retains one after being served, with a proposed settlement that's favorable to you. We make it clear we have extensive evidence we're prepared to use if she contests. Many people will accept a worse settlement to avoid the humiliation of this becoming part of the public record. Court proceedings are public. Divorce filings are public record. The details and motions and filings can be accessed. If this goes to trial, testimony is generally open court, unless sealed for specific reasons. She paused. That cuts both ways. It could be leverage to encourage settlement, or it could make her dig in harder if she's concerned about her reputation. I thought about Jessica's real estate career. Her image mattered. The professional headshots on bus benches and shopping cart corrals, the carefully curated social media presence. Having her affairs become public record would damage that. There's a third option, Victoria said. You confront her privately first. Give her the opportunity to agree to your terms before any filing. Some people respond better to that approach. They feel they have more control, even though the outcome is the same. And if she refuses, then we file with prejudice and make her regret it. Victoria's smile was thin. But you'd have given her the chance. Some judges appreciate that. The good faith effort to resolve things amicably before involving the court. I looked down at the evidence folder on the desk between us. 11 days of work. Hundreds of pages of emails, spreadsheets, documented lies. The thought of handing this to Jessica directly, watching her face as she realized I knew everything, had a certain appeal. But it also meant showing my hand before the game was truly in play. How long do I have to decide? I asked. There's no deadline, but I wouldn't wait too long. The more time passes, the more opportunity for something to change. She could discover you know. She could move money. She could establish new patterns that complicate custody arguments. Victoria closed her folder. My recommendation, give it 2 more weeks. Continue documenting. Let me run the background checks. Then we make a decision about approach. 2 weeks. I could do that. 2 more weeks of pretending everything was normal while building an airtight case. In the meantime, I need you to do something that's going to feel counterintuitive. Victoria's expression turned serious. Be the perfect husband. Attend every kid's event. Handle more than your share of household responsibilities. Don't pick fights. Don't show any anger or suspicion. If this goes to custody litigation, we want you to be the stable, involved parent. While she's off sleeping with pharmaceutical reps. Exactly. Let her keep digging her own grave while you build yourself up as the better custodial option. Victoria stood, extending her hand. I'll have my investigator start work today. We'll meet again in 1 week to review what he finds and assess your additional documentation. I shook her hand, gathered my folders. The retainer check I'd written, $50,000, sat on her desk, already deposited according to the notification I'd received on my phone during our meeting. $50,000 for the privilege of methodically dismantling my marriage. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed. An email forwarded from Jessica's account. From Traveling Brad 47 to Jessica. Subject: Thursday. Can't wait to see you. I've been thinking about last time all week. Same room at the Marriott? I sat in my Tesla, engine running, reading Brad's message. Thursday was 3 days away. Jessica had already canceled our date night, claiming a property showing in Dutchess County that would run late. Victoria's advice echoed in my head. Be the perfect husband. But another thought crystallized as I stared at Brad's email. I didn't just want evidence. I wanted Jessica to understand exactly how thoroughly she'd miscalculated. How completely I'd outmaneuvered her while she'd been too arrogant, too confident in her deceptions to notice. I opened a new browser window on my phone and searched for the Marriott's location. 40 minutes from our house. I could be there Thursday evening. I could document this myself, not just rely on emails and credit card statements, but actually witness the affair firsthand. Then I'd have everything I needed. I pulled out of the parking garage and headed home, already planning Thursday's surveillance operation. The digital clock on my dashboard read 6:47 p.m. when I pulled into the Marriott parking lot. Thursday evening. Date night. The one Jessica had canceled, claiming an urgent property showing in Scarsdale. I'd parked 3 rows back from the entrance, positioned where I could see the lobby doors and most of the lot. The Tesla's tinted windows gave me cover, and I'd dressed down. Jeans, a plain gray jacket, baseball cap pulled low. Not my usual Thursday attire. Jessica expected me in slacks and a button-down, sitting alone at Marcello's like some pathetic husband who didn't know his wife was spreading her legs for a pharmaceutical rep 2 towns over. My phone buzzed. Jessica's forwarded email. Room 412. Can't wait to see you. Jay sent 12 minutes ago. I watched the entrance. A young couple walked in holding hands. A businessman with a rolling suitcase. An older woman in a pantsuit. No Brad yet. I'd memorized his face from the LinkedIn profile Victoria's investigator had sent me. 42, divorced 3 years ago, 2 kids he saw every other weekend. Sales awards displayed prominently. That practice smile salespeople perfect, the one that never quite reaches the eyes. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text to my actual number. Showing ran late. Grabbing dinner with a client. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at those last 2 words until they stopped looking like language. A silver Audi pulled into the lot at 7:03. I sat up straighter. The driver matched Brad's photos. Tall, athletic build, that corporate casual look of expensive jeans and a sport coat. He checked his phone before getting out, ran a hand through his hair, then walked toward the entrance with the confidence of a man who'd done this before. Because he had. 8 months of Thursdays, according to Jessica's calendar. Sometimes Tuesdays. Once on a Sunday afternoon when she'd told me she was at an open house in White Plains. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. The lobby smelled like generic hotel. That blend of industrial carpet cleaner and air freshener that's supposed to be inoffensive but just smells like trying too hard. I kept my head down, cap brim low, and walked past the front desk toward the elevators like I belonged there. The clerk didn't even glance up. 4th floor. The elevator dinged and I stepped into the hallway, immediately turning left, away from room 412. I'd studied the floor plan online. These Marriotts were all laid out the same. The ice machine was at the far end, near the emergency exit. I walked there slowly, pulled out my phone, and leaned against the wall like I was taking a call. Room 412 was 6 doors down on the opposite side. I could leave right now. I had everything I needed. Emails, credit card statements, hotel records spanning 8 months. Victoria had said documentation was enough. I didn't need to see it with my own eyes. But I stayed. Maybe I needed proof that couldn't be forwarded or screenshotted. Maybe some part of me still hoped I'd misunderstood, that there was an explanation that would make all of this make sense. Or maybe I just needed to know exactly what I was destroying when I filed those papers. Footsteps echoed from the elevator bank. I pressed the phone to my ear, pretending to listen. A housekeeper pushed a cart past me, nodded politely, disappeared into a room near the ice machine. The hallway went quiet again. My watch read 7:31. They'd been in there almost half an hour. I thought about Emma asking where Mommy was during dinner tonight. Tyler showing me his spelling test, another perfect score. I'd ordered pizza, helped with homework, tucked them both in before coming here. The domestic symphony continuing while the conductor prepared to burn down the concert hall. Movement at the far end of the hallway. I tensed, but it was just a couple leaving their room, heading toward the elevator. They were laughing about something, his arm around her waist. Probably married, probably faithful. Probably not spending their Thursday evening in a hotel room that cost $189 a night, charged to a joint credit card while their spouse sat home with the kids. My phone buzzed. Another forwarded email from Jessica. That was amazing. Same time next week? Jay sent 2 minutes ago. My hand tightened around the phone until I heard the case creak. They'd be coming out soon. Brad would leave first. He always did, according to the pattern I'd mapped. Jessica would wait 15 minutes, fix her makeup, make sure her hair didn't look like she'd spent the last hour in bed with someone else's husband. Then she'd drive home, kiss the kids goodnight if they were still awake, and slip into our bed smelling like hotel soap and betrayal. The door to 412 opened. I turned slightly, phone still pressed to my ear, watching from my peripheral vision. Brad stepped out first, straightening his jacket. He glanced both ways down the hallway, a practiced move, checking for witnesses. Then he walked toward the elevator, that same confident stride. He passed within 10 feet of me without a second glance. I waited, counted to 60, then 120. At 3 minutes, Jessica emerged. She'd changed clothes. The blouse she'd worn this morning was different from the one she had on now, navy instead of cream. She'd thought ahead, brought a change of outfit so I wouldn't notice if something looked rumpled. That level of premeditation hit harder than I'd expected. She checked her phone, typed something quickly, then headed toward the elevator. I stayed frozen against the wall until I heard the elevator ding, the doors close, the mechanical whir of descent. Then I walked back to the elevator bank and pressed the button. The ride down felt longer than it should have. The doors opened onto the lobby. Through the glass entrance, I could see Jessica's Mercedes pulling out of the lot, turning left toward the parkway. Brad's Audi was already gone. I stood there in the lobby, surrounded by business travelers and families checking in, and felt something shift inside me. That last thread of hope, the one I hadn't even realized I'd been holding on to, finally snapped. Victoria had asked me which option I wanted: quiet divorce, aggressive litigation, or scorched earth. I pulled out my phone and typed a message. Scorched earth. File Monday morning. Her response came back in less than a minute. Understood. Come to my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bring all documentation. We'll need your signature on several documents before filing. I drove home on autopilot, my mind already 3 steps ahead. Monday morning, Jessica would be served at work. I'd made sure of that detail with Victoria. Maximum embarrassment, right in front of her colleagues at the real estate office. She'd come home furious, probably expecting me to fold, to negotiate, to be reasonable. Instead, she'd find the locks changed and a restraining order requiring her to stay 50 feet from the house. The business attorney was already working on protecting my company. The forensic accountant was documenting every dollar she'd spent on her affairs. And Victoria was preparing a custody filing that would paint Jessica as an unfit mother who prioritized her affair partners over her children's welfare. New York might be a no-fault state, but fault still mattered when it came to asset distribution and custody. And I had 11 days of documentation proving exactly how much fault Jessica carried. I pulled into our driveway at 9:15. The house was dark, except for the porch light. I sat in the car for a moment, looking at the home we'd bought together, renovated together, filled with our children's laughter and artwork and memories. By this time next month, it would be mine alone. I walked inside, set my keys in the bowl by the door, and climbed the stairs to check on Emma and Tyler. Both sleeping peacefully, unaware that their world was about to fracture. Jessica's car pulled in 20 minutes later. I heard the garage door, her footsteps in the kitchen, the refrigerator opening. "Honey," she called up the stairs. "You still awake?" "Yeah," I called back. "Just finishing some work." She appeared in the office doorway a moment later, still wearing that navy blouse. "How was your evening?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger wearing my wife's face. "Quiet," I said. "Just had pizza with the kids. How was your showing?" "Exhausting." She smiled, and I wondered how I'd ever believed that smile was genuine. Client couldn't make up their mind about anything. "I'm going to take a quick shower and head to bed." "Sounds good?" She left. I heard the bathroom door close, the water start running. I turned back to my computer and opened the folder labeled Evidence Final. 147 documents, 32 spreadsheets, 8 months of affair documentation, plus fragments of earlier affairs going back at least 2 years. Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. The alarm went off at 5:47 a.m. on Monday morning. I'd been awake for 2 hours already, lying in the darkness next to Jessica, listening to her breathe. She'd come home around 11 on Thursday night, smelling of hotel soap and Brad's cologne, something woody and expensive that pharmaceutical sales money could buy. She'd kissed my cheek, told me the property closing had run late, and fallen asleep within minutes. I hadn't touched her since. Now, watching her sleep in the gray pre-dawn light, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no residual love. Just the cold satisfaction of knowing that in approximately 4 hours, her world would detonate. I showered, dressed in my usual work uniform, dark jeans, button-down shirt, and went downstairs. Made coffee, checked my phone. Victoria's paralegal had sent a confirmation at 6:02 a.m. Process server confirmed for 10 a.m. at Century 21 office, White Plains location. All documents ready. Jessica came down at 7:15, already dressed in her showing clothes, tailored navy dress, heels, the diamond earrings I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary. She poured coffee into her travel mug, scrolling through her phone with her free hand. "Big day?" I asked. "3 showings before noon." She didn't look up. "Probably won't be home until 6. There's leftover chicken in the fridge for the kids." "I'll handle dinner." She glanced at me then, something flickering across her face. Suspicion? Guilt? But it passed. "Thanks. I've got to run." The Mercedes pulled out of the driveway at 7:31. I watched from the kitchen window until the taillights disappeared around the corner. Emma and Tyler ate breakfast. I made them scrambled eggs and toast, helped Tyler find his library book, braided Emma's hair the way Jessica usually did. Normal Monday morning chaos. The domestic machinery running smoothly, even as I prepared to dismantle everything. I dropped them at school at 8:20. Hugged them both a little longer than usual. Then I drove to Victoria's office in Manhattan. The law firm occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in Midtown. Victoria's corner office had views of the Hudson and enough square footage to fit my home office twice over. She was already at her desk when her assistant showed me in at 9:15, reviewing documents with the focused intensity of a surgeon planning an operation. "Everything's filed," she said without preamble. "Divorce petition, motion for exclusive use of the marital residence, emergency motion for temporary custody based on dissipation of marital assets and inappropriate use of family funds. I've also filed a notice of LS pendens on the house. She can't sell or refinance without your consent." I sat down across from her. "The service?" "Robert Clemens, 20 years experience, former NYPD. He'll serve her at her office at 10 o'clock. Victoria slid a folder across the desk. "These are your copies. The petition details everything: the affairs, the hotel charges, the pattern of deception. It's all there in black and white, filed with the Westchester County Supreme Court as of 8:47 this morning. I opened the folder. Saw my name and Jessica's name on the caption. Plaintiff versus defendant. Legal language reducing 11 years of marriage to a civil dispute. What happens after service? I asked. She has 20 days to respond with her own attorney. But given the evidence, I expect her counsel will want to negotiate rather than litigate. The documented dissipation alone gives us significant leverage. Victoria leaned back in her chair. I've already drafted a proposed settlement agreement. Generous, considering the circumstances. She gets 15% of marital assets, no spousal support, and standard visitation with the children. You keep the house, the business, and primary custody. 15%? She spent approximately $80,000 of marital funds on extramarital affairs over 8 months. In New York, that's dissipation, waste of marital assets. A judge can adjust the distribution to compensate you for that waste. Combined with the documented adultery and the fact that you're the primary breadwinner, 15% is defensible. Victoria's expression didn't change. Of course she can reject it, but if we go to trial, she'll likely get less. I thought about the house, the business I'd built, the college funds I'd been contributing to since Emma was born. All of it now weaponized in a legal battle I hadn't wanted but would absolutely win. What about Brad? I asked. And the others? New York abolished alienation of affection claims in 1935, so we can't sue him directly. But if he's mentioned in her response, or if she tries to continue the relationship during the proceedings, it strengthens our case for her unfitness as a custodial parent. Victoria paused. The investigator's preliminary report came back this morning. Brad's married, as you know. 2 kids in Connecticut. His wife doesn't know about the affair. Yet. That's your decision, not mine. But I'd advise against direct contact with Brad or his wife. It could complicate things. I nodded. I had no intention of contacting Brad's wife. That would be Jessica's problem to manage when Brad's world imploded alongside hers. Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Robert's in position. Should be any minute now. We sat in silence. I checked my watch. 9:58 a.m. My phone remained quiet. I'd half expected Jessica to call, to somehow sense what was coming. But there was nothing. At 10:07, Victoria's phone rang. She answered, listened, said, understood, and hung up. It's done. She's been served. I didn't go home. Couldn't face the empty house, the children's drawings on the refrigerator, the wedding photos Jessica had arranged on the mantle. Instead, I drove to the office, the small suite in a business park where my company operated. 3 employees were there. Amy, my operations manager, Greg, lead developer, and Lisa, who handled client relations. They knew something was wrong the moment I walked in. I'd been distracted for 2 weeks, canceling meetings, working from home more than usual. Everything okay? Amy asked. Personal situation, I said. I'll fill you in when there's more to tell. For now, business as usual. I closed myself in my office and tried to work, reviewed code, answered emails, called a client in California about a contract renewal. Normal Monday tasks that felt surreal given what was happening 15 miles away in White Plains. My phone rang at 11:43. Unknown number. I answered. You bastard, Jessica's voice, raw and shaking. You had me served at work, in front of my entire office. I said nothing. How long have you known? Quieter now, almost a whisper. Long enough? We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can... No. Silence. Then, I need to see the kids. You'll see them according to the temporary custody arrangement. Every other weekend and Wednesday evenings, supervised until the court decides otherwise. Supervised? You're saying I can't be trusted with my own children? You spent $80,000 of our money on hotel rooms and gifts for your boyfriends. You've been lying for months, maybe years. So no, Jessica, I don't trust you. I heard her breathing, ragged and uneven. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Repeatedly. Systematically. I kept my voice flat, emotionless. My attorney will be in touch about the settlement proposal. I suggest you hire someone competent. I'm not signing anything that gives you the kids. Then we'll go to trial. And every detail, every hotel charge, every text message, every lie you told, will become part of the public record. Your clients will see it. Your family will see it. Emma and Tyler will eventually see it. I paused. Your choice. She hung up. I set the phone down and stared at my computer screen, at the lines of code that made perfect logical sense in a way that human behavior never would. Tyler's school called at 2:17. Jessica had tried to pick him up early, claiming a family emergency. The school had called me to verify. My name was listed as primary contact on all the forms. Don't release him to anyone without my explicit permission, I told the administrator. There's an active custody case. I'll send you the court documents. We understand. He's safe here. I left the office immediately, drove to the elementary school, and waited in the pickup line like every other Monday. Tyler came out at 2:55, backpack bouncing, oblivious. Emma's middle school dismissed at 3:15. I collected her too, saw the question in her eyes when she got in the car. Where's Mom? She asked. She had to work late. It'll be just us for dinner. We stopped at the grocery store. I let them pick out ingredients for tacos, their favorite. We went home and I helped Tyler with his spelling words while Emma practiced violin. The ordinary rhythms of our life, continuing despite the earthquake that had split everything open. Jessica's Mercedes wasn't in the driveway. Wouldn't be, I realized. She was probably at a lawyer's office right now, being told exactly how bad this was going to get. My phone buzzed at 6:47. Text from an unknown number. This is Ann Peterson, attorney for Jessica. We need to discuss settlement terms. Available tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I forwarded it to Victoria, who responded within minutes. I'll handle it. Don't engage directly. Dinner was loud and chaotic. Tyler spilled salsa on his shirt. Emma told me about a boy in her class who'd gotten in trouble for passing notes. Normal kid stuff. They didn't ask about their mother again, and I didn't volunteer information. At bedtime, Emma hugged me and said, "Are you and Mom fighting?" Why do you ask? You seem sad. I kissed her forehead. Everything's going to be okay, I promise. A promise I intended to keep no matter what it cost. The morning after serving Jessica, I sat in my home office monitoring the email feeds. Her phone had been buzzing nonstop since 9:47 a.m., the exact moment the process server handed her the papers at her brokerage. I'd timed it perfectly. Maximum humiliation. The emails to Brad started within minutes. He knows. He knows everything. I don't understand how. He's filing for full custody. I need to see you. Brad's response came fast. Can't. Wife's home. This is bad timing. I watched Jessica's reply appear in real time. Bad timing? I'm losing my kids and you're worried about timing? No response from Brad for 3 hours. My phone rang. Victoria Walsh. Jessica's retained counsel, she said, without preamble. Andrew Lawson. He's competent but conventional. He'll push for reconciliation counseling, try to make you look vindictive. Let him try. Her first move will be damage control on the affair evidence. Expect her to claim emotional neglect, that you drove her to it. They'll paint you as a workaholic who abandoned her emotionally. I have her emails calling me predictable and boring, mocking me to her lover. Good. Keep them coming. Discovery starts in 2 weeks. I need everything you have organized by categories: financial misconduct, parental fitness concerns, affair timeline. Can you do that? Already done. A pause. You're unusually prepared for this. I built a business on systems and documentation. Then let's use that. I'm filing a motion for temporary custody this afternoon. Be ready for her countermotion. After she hung up, I checked the feeds again. Jessica had sent 17 emails in the past hour. To Brad, to her sister Stephanie, to her friend Claire. All variations of the same panic. He took everything. All the bank statements, hotel records, everything. How did he know about Kevin? The lawyer says he has months of evidence. Then one to Brad that made my jaw tighten. We need to meet. Just once. Please? His reply. I can't be involved in this. I have my own family to think about. I watched her send 3 more messages. He didn't respond to any of them. Good. Let her feel what abandonment actually looked like. That evening, Jessica came home. I heard her Mercedes in the driveway at 6:15 p.m. The front door opened. I was in the kitchen with Emma and Tyler, helping with dinner. Spaghetti. Tuesday routine. Daddy, can I have extra cheese? Tyler asked. Sure, buddy. Jessica appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. She looked at the kids, then at me. Can we talk? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Kids, go wash your hands, I said. They scrambled off. Jessica stepped closer. How could you serve me at work, in front of everyone? I kept my voice level. How could you spend $23,000 of our money on hotel rooms? She flinched. I made a mistake. Mistakes. But we can fix this. For the kids. The kids you were thinking about when you met Brad at the Marriott, or when you told Kevin I was too boring to notice. Her face went pale. You read my emails? Your emails, your texts, your discrete encounters profile, all of it. That's illegal. You can't. Community property state, Jessica. Joint accounts, joint devices, all perfectly legal. Victoria made sure of that before I filed. She grabbed the counter edge. Who's Victoria? My attorney. You'll meet her soon enough? I hired Andrew Lawson. He says you don't have grounds for full custody. I'm their mother. You're their mother who was having sex with strangers while I took them to violin practice and helped with homework. Victoria has affidavits documenting every time you claim to be showing houses, but were actually at the Marriott. Jessica's voice cracked. I love my children. Then you should have thought about them before you decided to sleep with half of Westchester County. It wasn't like that. You don't understand. You were always working, always focused on your business. I was lonely. There it was. The script Victoria had predicted word for word. I worked to provide for this family, for this house, for your Mercedes, for Emma's violin lessons and Tyler's soccer. Don't rewrite history because you got caught. She started crying. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind she'd probably practiced. Please, we can go to counseling. I'll end everything. We can start over. No. For the kids deserve a parent who doesn't lie to them every single day, who doesn't steal from their college fund to pay for affairs. Her head snapped up. I never touched their college fund. Joint account, Jessica. Every dollar you spent on hotels came from our shared resources. Resources that should have gone to our children's future. The tears stopped. Something harder moved behind her eyes. You're going to regret this. Andrew says you're being vindictive and cruel. The judge will see that. The judge will see documentation, evidence, facts, not feelings. You can't turn my own children against me. I don't have to. You did that yourself. She grabbed her purse from the counter. I'm staying at Stephanie's. My lawyer will be in touch about custody arrangements. You're welcome to visit. Supervised, of course. Supervised? I'm their mother. You're a flight risk with a history of deception. Victoria's filing the motion tomorrow. Jessica's face twisted into something I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. You smug bastard. You think you're so smart with your spreadsheets and your systems. You have no idea what you've started. I know exactly what I've started, and I know exactly how it ends. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Tyler appeared in the hallway. Is Mommy okay? I knelt down to his level. Mommy's going through some grown-up stuff right now, but you and Emma are going to be fine, I promise. Is she coming back? Not tonight, buddy, but you'll see her soon. After I got the kids to bed, I returned to my office. New emails had arrived. Jessica to Stephanie. He's a monster. He planned this whole thing. I need you to testify that he was never home, that he ignored us. Jessica to Claire. Can you remember any times he was cruel to me? Anything I can use in court? Jessica to Brad. This is your fault too. You said you loved me. You said we'd figure it out together. Now you won't even answer my calls. Still nothing from Brad. Then one more email came through. Not from Jessica's account, from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: You should know something. I opened it. Mr. Turner, my name is Diane Hoffman. I'm Brad's wife. I found your wife's emails on his laptop tonight. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I thought you should know that Brad has a twin brother. Identical twin. His name is Brian. They've been running this scheme for 2 years. Brad seduces women. Brian shows up for the actual meetings when Brad needs an alibi. I have proof. Hotel records where Brad was supposedly in Chicago for work, but Brian was at the Marriott with your wife. They split the money the women spend on them. I'm sending you everything I have. Use it. My hand froze on the mouse. Twin brother. I pulled up the surveillance photos from the Marriott. The man Jessica met. I'd assumed it was Brad. Same build, same hair, same general appearance from the dating profile. But what if it wasn't? I opened the attachment Diane had sent. Hotel records, credit card statements. Photos of 2 men who looked identical. Brad and Brian Hoffman. And a spreadsheet, their spreadsheet, documenting every woman they'd scammed. Jessica was number 17. The dates lined up perfectly. Every time Jessica claimed to meet Brad, Brad had verifiable alibis. Business trips, conferences, family events. But Brian didn't. Brian was always available. I sat back in my chair, mind racing through the implications. Jessica hadn't just been having an affair. She'd been conned, manipulated by 2 men working in tandem, and I had proof of all of it. I forwarded everything to Victoria with a single line. This changes everything. Call me. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Tell me you're seeing what I'm seeing, Victoria said. Twin brothers, running a coordinated scheme. This is fraud, potentially criminal fraud. If they were extracting money from these women, Jessica spent $23,000 on hotels and gifts. If she thought she was in a relationship with Brad, but Brian was the one actually meeting her, that's fraud by deception. And if they've done this to 17 women, we're talking about a pattern of criminal behavior. Can we use this? Victoria was quiet for a moment. Better than use it. We can bury her with it. Jessica becomes a victim in the affair narrative, which actually helps us. She was deceived, manipulated, scammed. It doesn't excuse her behavior, but it reframes the custody argument. She showed poor judgment, fell for a con, endangered family resources. You're the stable parent protecting the children from her reckless decisions. And the brothers? That's a separate issue. But if Diane's willing to testify, if she has evidence they've been doing this systematically, we might be looking at criminal charges. I thought about Jessica's emails to Brad. The desperation. The pleading. She had no idea she'd been played by two different men. "Send me everything you have," Victoria said. "I want to review it tonight. We're filing an amended motion tomorrow with this new evidence." After hanging up, I looked at the photos again. Brad and Brian Hoffman. Mirror images. One to seduce, one to execute. And Jessica had fallen for both of them without ever knowing the difference. 3 months after I discovered Jessica's Apple Watch buzzing in the frozen food aisle, I stood in Westchester County Supreme Court watching Judge Patricia Caldwell review the final settlement agreement. Jessica sat across the aisle with Andrew Lawson, her attorney. She looked smaller somehow, diminished in a way that had nothing to do with the weight she'd lost. The navy dress she wore was the same one she'd worn to meet Brian, or was it Brad, that Thursday night? I wondered if she knew. If she'd ever figured out she'd been sleeping with two different men. She had, eventually. Diane Hoffman's evidence made that unavoidable. "Mr. Turner," Judge Caldwell said, looking over her reading glasses at me. "You're satisfied with these terms?" "Yes, Your Honor." The settlement was everything Victoria had promised and more. I kept the house, the business, 90% of our liquid assets. Jessica received $127,000, roughly 10% of our marital estate, after accounting for the money she'd dissipated on the affairs. No spousal support. No claims to my business. Primary physical custody of Emma and Tyler went to me. Jessica got alternate weekends and Wednesday dinners. Supervised for the first 6 months, then reevaluated based on her compliance with the parenting plan. "Ms. Turner?" The judge turned to Jessica. "Yes." Her voice was barely audible. "I agree." Andrew Lawson had advised her to take it. Victoria had made that clear during our last meeting. The alternative was a trial where every detail would become public record. Not just the affairs, but the fact that she'd been conned by twin brothers running a romance scam. That Brad and Brian Hoffman were currently under investigation by the FBI for wire fraud, affecting 23 women across 4 states. That Jessica had been victim number 17 in a scheme that had netted the brothers over $400,000. The embarrassment of being an adulteress was one thing. The humiliation of being a mark was something else entirely. "Very well." Judge Caldwell signed the order. "This marriage is dissolved. Custody arrangement is effective immediately. Mr. Turner retains the marital residence. Mrs. Turner has 30 days to remove her personal belongings." The gavel came down. 11 years, ended in 4 seconds of wood striking wood. Jessica left the courthouse without speaking to me. Andrew Lawson gave me a curt nod, professional courtesy between opposing parties, and followed her out. Victoria gathered her files. "Congratulations. This is the best possible outcome given the circumstances." "What happens to the Hoffman brothers?" "Federal case. Diane's cooperating with prosecutors. If even half of what she's provided holds up, they're looking at significant prison time." She paused. "Jessica might be called as a witness." "Will she cooperate?" "Probably not. Too embarrassing. But they don't need her. They have 17 other victims and a mountain of digital evidence." We walked out of the courthouse together into October sunshine. The leaves were turning. That brief window when Westchester looked like a postcard. "What will you do now?" Victoria asked. "Go pick up my kids from school, make dinner, help with homework. Same as always." She smiled slightly. "The boring, predictable stuff." "Yeah, turns out that's exactly what they need." Emma adjusted faster than Tyler. She was old enough to understand that sometimes people stopped being married, that it didn't mean anyone stopped loving her. Tyler struggled more with the concept. He kept asking when Mommy was coming home, not understanding that home had been redefined. Jessica's first supervised visit happened 2 weeks after the divorce finalized. She met them at a family therapy center in White Plains, a neutral location with a court-appointed supervisor present. I dropped them off, watched through the window as they ran to her. She hugged them both, crying, and I felt something twist in my chest that might have been pity. She'd destroyed our marriage, lied systematically, stolen from our family resources. But she did love our children, in her way. That had never been in question. The question was whether love was enough when judgment failed so catastrophically. Brad Hoffman, the real Brad, sent me an email in November. I know you have no reason to believe me, but I didn't know what Brian was doing until it was too late. He used my identity, my dating profiles, my information. By the time I discovered it, he'd already been meeting women for months. I'm cooperating with federal investigators. I'm divorcing Diane. I've lost my job. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I never intended for any of this to happen to your family. Asterisk. I deleted it without responding. Intentions didn't matter. Outcomes did. And the outcome was that my children's lives had been fractured by two men running a con and a woman too selfish to consider the consequences of her choices. The business grew. Turns out that not having a wife systematically undermining your confidence and draining your emotional energy was good for productivity. We landed 3 major contracts in the fourth quarter. Revenue projections for the next year looked strong. I hired a part-time nanny to help with the kids' schedules. Margaret, 63, grandmother of 5, background checked within an inch of her life. She picked them up from school on days I couldn't, made sure homework got done, kept the house running. Emma started therapy, not because she was struggling, but because Victoria had recommended it. Proactive mental health support for children of divorce. Tyler went too. They both seemed to benefit from having a neutral adult to talk to about their feelings. Jessica's supervised visits became unsupervised after 6 months. She was compliant with the custody schedule, never late, never missed a visit. She'd moved into a small apartment in Yonkers, taken a job with a different real estate firm. Her social media went dark. No more professional headshots on bus benches. She'd been humiliated publicly enough that reinvention seemed impossible in Westchester County. I didn't take pleasure in that. I'd stopped feeling anything about Jessica except a vague relief that she was no longer my problem to manage. 1 year after finding that Apple Watch, I sat in Emma's school auditorium watching her violin recital. She played a Bach piece, fingers moving confidently across the strings. When she finished, she searched the crowd until she found me, and her face lit up with a smile. Tyler sat next to me, swinging his legs, bored but present. Margaret was on his other side, ready to take him to the bathroom if needed. Jessica was in the back row. I'd texted her the details. I wasn't cruel enough to exclude her from important events. She waved at Emma when it was over, but didn't approach us. The custody agreement specified no contact between us except regarding the children, and we both adhered to it religiously. After the recital, I took the kids for ice cream. Emma got chocolate chip. Tyler got vanilla with rainbow sprinkles. We sat outside the shop in the November cold, and Emma said, "This was a good day." "Yeah," I agreed. It was. "Are you happy, Daddy?" I looked at her. 9 years old, perceptive beyond her years, already learning to navigate a world more complicated than it should be. "I'm getting there," I said. And I was. The lesson I learned from all of this wasn't about trust or betrayal or the importance of vigilance in relationships. It was simpler than that. People will show you who they are if you pay attention. Jessica had always been someone who needed external validation, who made decisions based on immediate gratification rather than long-term consequences. I'd ignored those traits during our courtship, minimized them during our marriage, and paid the price for that willful blindness. But I'd also learned that systems matter. Documentation matters. Preparation matters. When chaos comes, and it always comes eventually, the person who's organized, methodical, and 3 steps ahead will survive it intact. I'd built a business on that principle. Turned out it applied to divorce too. 2 years later, I sold the house. Too many memories, too much square footage for 3 people. We moved to a smaller place in Scarsdale, closer to the kids' schools. 4 bedrooms instead of 5. A yard big enough for Tyler's soccer practice, but not so large that maintenance consumed every weekend. Emma was 11. Tyler was 8. They'd adapted to the new normal. 2 houses, 2 sets of rules, the complicated choreography of shared custody. Jessica remarried. A man named Philip, an accountant she'd met through friends. Stable, boring, exactly what she needed after the chaos she'd created. I met him once during a custody exchange. He seemed decent enough. I hoped he knew what he was getting into. The Hoffman brothers both pled guilty to federal fraud charges. Brad got 4 years. Brian got 7. He'd been the primary architect of the scheme. Diane Hoffman wrote a book about the experience that became a minor bestseller. I didn't read it. My company hit $10 million in annual revenue. I hired 2 more developers, moved into a larger office space. Work-life balance improved once I stopped having to document my wife's affair schedule and could focus on actual business growth. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. The kids met one woman, Stephanie, a teacher, divorced, no kids of her own. It didn't work out, but it was amicable. She sent Emma a birthday card the following year. Maybe eventually I'd find something lasting. Maybe not. Either way, I'd learned to be content with what I had. 2 healthy kids, a successful business, and the peace that comes from knowing exactly where you stand. On what would have been our 14th anniversary, Jessica sent me a text. "I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better." I stared at it for a long time. Thought about responding, decided against it. Some apologies come too late to matter. Some damage can't be repaired with words. I deleted the message and went to pick up the kids from school. Life, as it turned out, went on. Predictable, boring, stable, exactly the way I'd built it to be. And this time, nobody was there to call it a little empire while tearing it down from the inside. This time, I'd won.